car boot sales, charity shops, a place that we all like to go and have a rummage and look for a bargain. But what happens if that bargain turns your life into a living nightmare? Could you be the new owner of a cursed or even haunted item? Hello and welcome to my channel where we're going to be talking all things spooky, cursed or even haunted. So if you do like all the paranormal, spooky, interesting stuff, then don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Not only do I talk about all the spooky stuff, I do paranormal investigations as well on a Sunday with my partner at 9 p.m. But today, let's talk about 4 items that are said to be haunted or even cursed. So first up on my list is the Devil's Rocking Chair. Now this story takes us all the way back to 1980, where a little boy called David, only 11 years old at the time, woke up screaming that he had seen a man-like creature. Now he described this man-like creature as having jagged teeth, pointed ears and even horns. Now, we all know children can make things up, but David's parents and David's friends and family did say that David never really watched horror films and he wasn't the type of child to make things up. Unfortunately, things only got worse for David when he started having nightmares, and he would wake up from these nightmares with bruises or even marks over his body. So David not only did have nightmares, but he was starting to see somebody in this rocking chair, and it was the man or creature that he had claimed to see in his nightmares. And he would see the chair rocking with the creature sitting in it. But his friends and family also noticed that the chair was rocking, but they couldn't see anybody in it. Now, things got so bad that they did actually ask Ed and Lorraine Warren to come in and do an exorcism on the boy. Now, I don't really know much more after that because I did try and find some more information, but I couldn't really find anything else after. But I know there is a film called The Devil's Rocking Chair, and it was made famous by this case. Now, you're probably wondering, where is the rocking chair today? Well, I can tell you that the rocking chair today actually sits in Zach Bagans' Haunted Museum. But apparently, he's actually taken it off of the shelf because he said it's far too dangerous. I mean, would you want to sit in the Devil's Rocking Chair? Up next, we have the Hands Resist Him painting. Now, this painting was painted in 1972 by Bill Stohan. And this painting gained a lot of attention after the seller of the painting put it onto eBay and said that it was haunted. Now, obviously, you can imagine there was a lot of people interested in this painting. I couldn't really find out why it was haunted, but a lot of people said that it was a very disturbing painting due to there being a little boy in the painting and the hands looked like they were reaching out to grab the boy. Now, it did sell to the highest bidder. I couldn't find an accurate price, but again, that's all I have on the story. So, is it a painting that you would want to own? Up next, we have the Surrey ghost car. Now, this story comes from British Columbia in Canada. And folklore say people have seen a mysterious car that can only be described as black and old-fashioned. Witnesses say they have seen this car driving late at night, erratically, or even following them down dark highways or rural areas. This car then follows them and then just disappears. Some theories are that this is just a reflection of some mist, or other drivers are mistaking this car for a car that they are actually seeing on the road that may look like this car. But other people think that it's just a local prank and it's people just messing about. As you can imagine, this story does get a lot of attention from paranormal investigators who want to investigate this road. I mean, as a paranormal investigator myself, I would probably love to investigate, see if that ghost Surrey car is really driving down the highway late at night. The Bugsby Stoop Chair. Now this story takes us back to the 1600s, where Thomas Bugsby, a local man from North Yorkshire, who some say was a bit of a criminal and also a thug, married a lady called Elizabeth. Now Elizabeth's father Daniel was also known to be a crook. He actually bought a farm where he could modify the farm to suit his crimes. Now one night, Daniel and Thomas got into a big argument. Thomas then grabbed a hammer and bludgeoned to death Daniel. Now obviously in a state of panic, he didn't know what to do, so he went to the woods and buried his father-in-law, Daniel. Now people started growing a bit suspicious because they hadn't seen Daniel on his farm and they hadn't seen him around for a while. So locals then contacted the police just to see where Daniel was and to do a welfare check on him. The police then looked for Daniel and they widened their search to the woods where Thomas hadn't really buried him that well. So Daniel was kind of on display and the police found him bludgeoned to death. Now, the original suspect was Thomas and they wasn't really looking for anybody else in the case. So Thomas was found guilty of the death of his father-in-law, Daniel, and he was sentenced to death by hanging, but he was granted one last wish, and his wish was to go to his local and have a pint, but not just any pint in any chair. He wanted to sit in his favourite chair. So he sat there, sipping his pint, enjoying every last bit before he was sentenced to his death by hanging. And once he had finished his pint, he got off the chair and he said, "Anybody that sits in this chair after me will die." Now, after Thomas was hung, this chair was actually put up on the wall because locals were saying it's just too dangerous to sit in it after him shouting those words and possibly cursing the chair. I mean, I wouldn't probably sit in that chair, would you guys? Now this is my favourite story and you're about to find out why. This is the story of Anna Baker and the haunted wedding dress. Anna Baker grew up in Baker's mansion with her two brothers, a father Ellis and her mother Hetty. Now her father was a very successful businessman and they owned this huge mansion. But Anna, she fell in love with a steel worker. And she fell in love with him and she really wanted to marry this guy. She even went out and bought a wedding dress. But when her father knew and saw that she had bought this wedding dress, he wasn't happy. He wanted Anna to fall in love and marry a successful businessman like himself. So he decided to lock Anna in her bedroom and said, "You shall never see that man again." He even went as far as going to the local steel shop and even getting this young man fired. Anna swore that she would never marry another man for the rest of her life. But when her father died in 1848, she decided to go and visit the steelworker that she was going to marry. Now, unfortunately, he had already moved on. He had a wife and children of his own. This really did upset Anna and it really did break her heart. She went back to Baker's mansion and she would put the wedding dress on and she would dance around in her room. Some people say she became very depressed. And workers at the mansion, like the maids, would see her dancing around in this wedding dress. But they did try and avoid her because they thought this was very strange and odd behaviour. Now, unfortunately, Anna did die in 1914. She never did marry and she died very lonely. Now, after Anna's death, the mansion did become abandoned and the government did decide to buy it and turn it into a museum as it has all the original features in it, like chairs, paintings, artwork, mirrors, and of course Anna's wedding dress. They decided to preserve this wedding dress and put it into a glass box so that when people come in, they could see it without it getting damaged. But visitors would say they would see the dress moving on its own. Not only would the dress move on its own, but visitors and staff said that this dress can cause people to have hallucinations and to see a young woman dancing around in the mansion in the dress. The Baker's mansion, which is now a museum, is also said to be haunted, but not just by Anna, but by some of the Baker's family. But they do say Anna is the most active. In 1981, Life magazine did name this mansion as the most haunted place in America. And as you can see, guys, this is why this was probably the best story. For me, it just had the love theme, it had the wedding dress, and of course it had the hauntings. Now, I'd love to go to this museum and maybe do a paranormal investigation there, but I'm not sure if the museum is still open. I'm not sure if it still exists, but it's definitely an interesting place to go and possibly visit if I'm ever in America. So guys, that does come to the end of my list of haunted and cursed objects. I hope this hasn't put you off too much for the next time you're out wanting to get yourself a second-hand bargain. But thank you so much for joining me, guys. Don't forget, I do upload weekly, whether it's a crime video, whether I'm talking about spooky, haunted items, or whether it be a real paranormal investigation where I am joined with my partner Steve. So if you have enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. It is free. And please, if you do enjoy things all spooky, real paranormal investigations, or even true crime, please think about subscribing. It really does help us out. But until the next time, guys, stay safe and goodbye.